All right. Okay. So first of all, I want to welcome back Brandy. So thank you very much for joining us. She's going to be talking to us about the 4 qualities to foster design thinking. Before I turn it over to her so she can introduce herself and tell us a little bit about who she is and this topic, I want to go over some ground rules. I think you might already be familiar with it, but just wanted to call that out. So, we absolutely would love for you to participate. So, if you want to put your information in chat, please do so. Or if you prefer to come off mute or on video, just drop me a line in the chat because I have to enable you. Keep in mind that this is being recorded. So if you come off video or you come off mute, you will become part of the recording. So if you want to be completely anonymous, just DM me. But otherwise, please let me know. Drop any questions within the chat. We have a few questions at the very end. So Brandy will give us a presentation. And then make sure to check us out on YouTube, subscribe, because you will get a copy of the recording. But if you don't want to wait for the copy of the recording, you can go directly to YouTube. And please follow us on social media. So we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and at PowerToFly. So thank you very much. I will turn it over to Brandy to talk a little bit about who she is, and then I'll start sharing the screen for a presentation. So Brandy, it's all yours.
Hello again. Yes, I am Brandy Jordan, a self-proclaimed Jane of all trades, currently working as a concept alchemist for High Rock Accounting, and I am the architect for the Nucleus program. I do receive many comments on my job title, but in short, I work for a serial entrepreneur, and my role is to bring her ideas to life. That's what I do all day. It's actually a great role for me because I have this insatiable need to drown myself in work, evidently. But I do need the constant challenge, to everything that I do. I'm continuously learning new things. So throughout my varied career, one thing that has remained the same is my true enjoyment in helping individuals be better. There is nothing more beautiful than when you see that light bulb moment and everything starts to click. And the Nucleus program that I'm building helps foster just that. We are basically taking accountants that are stuck in the traditional firm life and teaching them to be entrepreneurs. And so it's amazing to watch as individuals start not only learning, but seeing the possibilities, especially when you start teaching them new concepts and ideas or ways of thinking or approaching different situations. So I'm really excited here to kind of share a little bit of that when we start talking about design thinking.
So
yeah, we can go ahead and dive right in. I'm sure all of you have heard the term design thinking. It's had its buzz moments. And probably a lot of you have tossed it aside since design thinking could not possibly relate to your profession, but you'd be wrong. So we'll start here by defining what design thinking is. And then I'd like to offer you my perspective on 4 characteristics associated with it that if we adopted could help us shift into a design thinking mindset overall. So to start, design thinking is not something specific to designers. All great innovators have practiced it. It is a different approach to searching for solutions. So design thinking is a process in which you seek to truly understand the humans involved and redefine problems. It allows you to identify alternative strategies and solutions that might not be instantly visible. It's basically a solutions-based approach to solving problems, and it's easy to make assumptions about situations without taking the small step to fully grasp the intricacies in each one, and that's where the fundamentals of design thinking come in. It revolves around a deep interest in developing an understanding of the people for whom we're designing solutions for. So design thinking helps us in the process of questioning the problem, questioning the assumptions, questioning the implications. It's extremely useful in tackling those problems that are ill-defined or unknown by reframing the problem in human-centric ways, creating ideas, and then trying those ideas out. Because design thinking also involves ongoing experimentation. You want to go to the next slide? Yeah. So Tim Brown, he is the CEO of IDEO, and I read this quote: "Design thinking is a human-centered and collaborative approach to problem solving, using a designed mindset to solve complex problems." When I read this quote, this is where I started thinking, what if we broke the process down differently? What if we started to think of this as a shift in your strategic mindset that you could apply to other aspects of your work? It would then allow you to become more focused on seeing the world through others' eyes, what they need versus seeing what you think they need. You want to change slide?
Yeah.
So there are many articles out there that can walk you through a standard design thinking process, but I just wanted to hit a high level what this process basically looks like as we dive deeper into what the mindset would look like. Basically, you start with inspiration. You observe your clients, your customers, your coworkers, or the situation, whatever the case may be, from a different perspective to define and capitalize on the needs that others have not yet recognized. What is missing? Then you develop ideas based on your observations rather than based on your own thoughts, and take your assumptions completely out of the equation, because this is where you ideate and brainstorm by challenging assumptions. And then lastly, it's testing your assumptions and ideas and failing until you make that better. So then what are the 4 qualities to start shifting into the design mindset? So we start with curiosity. Curiosity is one of the fundamental qualities behind design thinking. You need to be able to look at all sides as if you're seeing them for the first time. Be like that toddler that's constantly asking why, to gain a real understanding. Question everything. Why are we still doing it this way? Why is this piece not working? Why do our clients do this particular thing? Be curious so that you go beyond the surface and learn to pay attention to what's going on below. Never make assumptions, put your judgments away, and simply seek to understand. Next would be empathy. Being curious will lead you to truly understand and empathize with perspectives and situations. As you design solutions, the biggest challenge can be understanding your end user, whomever that may be, and their real needs. Empathy comes into play because you start to learn how they think and feel. Taking the time to talk directly with them, coming in with curiosity, and learning will help you grow your empathy. The third one, challenge to innovate. This is where you start to break the mold, where you start creating first. There's a popular quote from Henry Ford that drives home the point of design thinking. It's that if I had asked what people wanted, they would have said faster horses. So when changing your mindset, you have to stop making assumptions based on previous experiences. Instead, it would help if you challenge those assumptions, the concepts of what you can or cannot do, the status quo, and go back to your curious side. How can we do this differently? How can we do this better? And then the fourth one is big picture. With all the digging and learning and exploring the details, we need to not lose sight of the big picture and remember why you were solving for this to begin with. Focus on the value you are bringing and how what you are doing will help in the long term. Remembering the big picture also enables you to create something that people will continue to come to you for and help you avoid creating new problems after solving for old ones. So design thinking is not the end-all be-all solution for our problems, despite how much hype it's been given. However, adopting this mindset can open up possibilities, provide a unique framework for strategic thinking, and bring useful principles to any industry. And there's my background.
I'll stop sharing just for a minute and see. Hey, welcome, Raphael. I don't know when you joined, but any questions from the audience? Do you want to come off mute or video? Just drop me a line. I'll just give them a minute.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Rob.
Okay, so while we are waiting for questions, we have a few.
Mm-hmm.
So the one challenge, and I don't know if everybody runs into this, is sometimes we are in organizations or even a department where people have become set in their ways and they just don't want to hear a different point of view. So what recommendations would you have for us to start fostering it up and down and with our peers as well?
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's always resistance to change anyways. And I do find it sad that some work environments don't embrace change or innovation or give team members the ability to try new stuff. But one thing you want to avoid in these environments is to go in and just start imposing your idea if it was the only best idea. Let's start small. Oftentimes, leadership won't buy in until they see some initial evidence that it will work, right? So find a way to bring the design thinking on smaller projects or assignments. Let them see how the mindset helped you come up with a creative solution. Or you can start by changing your approach to situations, start asking questions and being experimental, and basically lead by example, because that will often inspire others when they start seeing you changing your approach. Maybe you don't have to tell them why. They just start seeing the changes and seeing what comes of it.
And they'll start to. Okay.
Mm-hmm. People will follow things when they're successful.
That's true. And then, as you said earlier, maybe showing them the benefits, because especially if there's I know not everything has a dollar value attached, but if there's value or benefits, you're right. Hopefully they'll slowly start embracing. And then we do have a question from Priva. Do you have any tips on identifying assumptions so you can move beyond them?
It's so easy to fall into your assumptions, honestly. So one of the ways I started with, I would make what I think the situation is, make my list, but then actually go and talk with the person involved or talk with the people involved, identifying what is actually going on. And then you start to see the parallels on what you think is happening versus what's actually happening. And so that you can start to like, okay, this is what I think, but this doesn't matter right now. This is what they are saying. This is what I'm observing. And you have to go based on your observations and really get out of your own head.
Okay, so like make a list.
Okay. Yeah. So you can start to see, because once you start to see how your train of thought goes versus what's actually happening, you'll start to identify it in yourself.
That makes, and then right now I know a lot of, so come from the project management area, and a lot of what you said resonated, because now the world is thinking in terms of agility and change, and really debugging the way we used to look at project management. Everything's done, plan for the next 12 months, and we're not going to adapt. So a lot of what you're saying is helping me as well. Now, you did talk about empathy. So what role does empathy play in design thinking? So the next question is, what are some myths? So one, I think you alluded to, we think design thinking is this thing that doesn't apply to our job. What are the myths have you encountered for design thinking that will help people start to embrace it more? Get past it.
Yeah, I mean, there's several out there for sure. And like I said, the first one is that it's only for designers and innovators. They hear the word design and just assume it's for the creatives, rather than looking at it as a human-centered, solutions-based approach to problem solving. Another is that it's strictly customer-centric approach, and it's not. It's a complete user experience with human beings being at the center. It can be your employees, it can be your partners, your stakeholders, your end customers. It's about how they interact with you, your brand, how they experience it. It's taking on a much more expansive view of the customer, being anyone whose problem you wish to solve. And then to a point too, with ROI and KPI for companies, I've heard it considered an unrealistic approach without any measurable results. And then I counter that, like, what do you think would happen to feedback in the form of testimonials, customer brand ratings, customer satisfaction index, net promoter scores, employee satisfaction scores, qualitative interviews, and their outcomes would actually come out better because of your efforts. Design thinking has a direct impact on those metrics. And that design thinking is only for a product design. That goes back to the fact that the problem with the word design and design thinking makes them think that there has to be some object or technology or something designed as a finished project, instead of just seeing it as simply another way of thinking. Other common myths are that it's only for high-tech industries, that it takes a lot of time, or that it's easy to just start using. It's not easy. It's not only for tech companies, and it does not need to take a long and arduous process. It's just a shift in your approach.
And I have a confession to make. So for it's funny. I would always say I'm not a creative type. So you're right. I have that myth in my head that I'm not quote unquote a design thinker, but you're right. If I look at it as problem solving and a different way of looking at it, then all of us has that capability. So yes, it's coming up with creative solutions, but an alternative way of looking as opposed to the brand. Yeah.
Which is why
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, that's exactly why I want to get people out of thinking of this as a design thinking process and thinking of it as a mindset. Because when you make those shifts, it starts to apply to everything you get out of like your assumptions, if you will.
Yeah. So that's good to know. Any questions from anyone wants to come off mute? Please do. Or on video. We were just saying earlier for those of you who missed it. So if you have cats or dogs or kids or anything, in the background, we don't care. So we, come off
We like fur babies.
video. So, in fact, you'll see, no, I don't think so. I had a broken bobblehead of Peyton Manning for a while over there. So I don't know if you can see it from the corner.
Nice.
I moved it. So definitely let me know if you want to come out. And then, so are there some, you've kind of talked about it, but are there some specific examples or things that people can start implementing today? So whether it's, you can think of something that we can start as soon as we walk out the door and
Yeah.
shift our mindset. So.
I mean, the very first one would be start with empathy. Start observing with empathy. Even to like Triva's point, stop making assumptions and learn what your clients, your users, your coworkers, whoever, learn what they are actually experiencing would be the very first step because that's your underlying baseline, if you will. You can also start to ask yourself questions at how I might, whatever, or how we might, whatever it may be. Just shifting to those type of questions will help push past constraints and offer more creative approaches. Another, allow for all ideas. So when you start brainstorming, you can start feeding off of each other. And not every idea that comes out is going to be a good one, but a bad idea can spawn a good idea, And that would lead to my other one is stop being afraid of failure, especially through this and thinking this way. Imagination is nurtured when there's no fear of rejection or failure. Just imagine future possibilities and communicate them. So I'd say to start with empathy, start asking how I might or how we might questions, allow for all ideas, and don't be afraid to fail.
And I know you mentioned that this could be at any level. So it could be at the employee level, team level. Have you found that? So let's say it's a larger project to which we're applying. Have you found any particular challenges with COVID and virtual settings that would make this, different, or is there a different approach we should take to make sure everybody's brainstorming and feels comfortable sharing ideas?
I haven't found, other than everything being in a virtual environment, right? As far as brainstorming and ideating, like that, I don't feel has become hindered out of COVID. I do want to acknowledge that it has put us all in different mindsets, so we might not be as creative as we like to be. So acknowledging that fact right now with everything going on. But to be able to still get on a virtual Zoom, I find more people because there is that little separation are braver with their ideas, it comes out more. And so I think there's a lot more feed happening, and we can actually come out with better ideas from it.
Good. Let's see. Okay, so Treva wants to know what are some basic questions that people can start to ask in the organizations to launch design thinking? Good question.
Thanks for that.
Very good.
I know, like always start with the why. As soon as we have it, and really go for what you're trying to solve for. And the biggest part to kind of start a design thinking process is getting rid of the assumptions and learning from the user experience. So if you're solving for a problem or situation, whether internally or externally, you have to start asking them the questions and stop just assuming that you've identified the problem. Because when you stop listening and stop, if you don't take that empathy piece of it, you're not going to solve for anything. But yeah, start with the whys. Start with how can we get to think about where you want to be, what's the end result that you want, and then map out how are we going to get there. I don't have the specifics for you, Triva. Sorry.
The 5 whys, as they say.
Yeah.
That could go either way, in the sense of I love the 5 whys, so I definitely practice it. Although I admit I've run sometimes into individuals who've taken it to a whole new level where almost putting people on the defensive, and I love the whole idea of the whys. but I think
you can get lost in the detail.
Yeah, like sometimes when people use it indiscriminately, I've seen but yeah, I'm a big fan of let's go back to identify what the root cause is. So good question, Triva. Now this is, I know, a loaded question because I remember you telling me last time that you do a lot of reading and articles, and so I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there are any specific books, and you mentioned a few quotes along the way, but are there any specific books, articles, things that you can recommend to people that we could start looking at and getting more inspired?
There's a couple of really good websites, actually. So IDEOU, so the letters IDEOU.com, they have a wealth of resources on design thinking, along with designthinking.ideo.com. They're like a mother house of things. Another one is the Stanford D School. It's another huge resource like IDEO. Their site is dschool.stanford.edu. And then I believe it's still free. There's an ebook that you can download. You can just do a quick Google search for it and download it, called Stop Talking, Start Making. It's a guide to design thinking. And then aside from that, any Google search will give you millions of results of information, a plethora of things and perspectives on it. But those three, I think, are all really good.
Stop talking, start doing.
Stop talking, start making.
Oh, making. Just typing those in, so hopefully I got the links right.
Yep.
And then I'm
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and the last one's just an ebook, and it should still be free to download.
And I'm going to write those down myself. Any questions? So those were the questions I had, but any questions from our audience?
You guys got me for 3 more minutes.
Yes.
We can have more stumpers like Triva.
Anyone want to come off video? And I'm always, but do let me know because I do have to enable you. No? Any stumpers? No?
Oh, it looks
All
like.
right. But thank you again. Because for me, I know the biggest takeaway is I don't have to be a designer or super creative, and we can apply it to any problem solving, whether it's 1, 2, an entire team, and that there are great benefits to starting to challenge our own assumptions. So that's my takeaway. Anyone want to share a takeaway in the audience before we wrap? Or if you have a tip of your own after listening to this and connecting with something. Yeah, it is. Thank you. All right. Anything? I'm going once. Going twice. All right. But thank you. So yes, thank you very much because that was a lot of information in our short time.
Short amount of time. I told you.
Yeah, and I think it's perfect because it gives us a framework to take with us. But I do want to wish all of you a wonderful weekend. And as a reminder, if you do not see the recording, you can go to YouTube. And Brandy, same thing. If for some reason you don't see it, let me know because sometimes they have to upload it. But she's been uploading it, so just send me an email. And then thank you again for coming back and giving us this wonderful conversation. And we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Yes,
So good luck, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Is there a link? Oh, you mean for LinkedIn to connect?